Hello guys, Jack is back. In today's video, we're going to be going over how to use React UseState as opposed to the old method of using class components. So in this video, it's going to be nothing but React hooks, and let's get into it. Alright, so the first thing we need to do, I've got an empty app component here, so you can see there's nothing on the page. So the first thing we're going to do is we actually need to import React UseState from React, right? So we're going to use, what is it called? Destructuring, that's it, to basically grab useState from React. Okay, so now that we've got that, let me show you how to use it. So we're basically going to have some constant variables in here, and we're going to store them in basically what happens is that the useState function will return two values to us in an array, and we're going to use destructuring to grab those from the array that's returned. Now the first value is going to be, we're going to call this counter, or just count. This is going to be the actual raw state. Okay. Now the second thing is going to be the function that we're going to use if we ever want to change the state. Okay. So the first value is the state. The second one is the function we can use to change the state. Because remember, you never change it like count is equal to this, right? You always have to make sure that you're changing it using the setState function. Okay. So then we can set these two equal to useState. Okay. And in these parentheses is going to be the initial value that you want. Okay. So when the page first loads, this is the value that's going to be set to this variable, and we're going to have that as 0. Let me just make this a little bit bigger for you guys. I know that it might be a little bit difficult to see. Okay. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing now. So in here, I just want to be able to sort of render out the count to the page, or the number to the page. Now I'm going to do this with just a p tag, and we're going to use curly braces here, and we're just going to use count, just like any other variable. You can go and set that on the page, and if I reload, you can see it says 0 up in the top left. And if I change this to say 110, and I save it, you can see it's at 110. So that's working well. I'm going to put that back to 0 though. So what I want to do is I want to create a button so that I can increase and decrease the count. Okay. So now what I can do is I can say button, and in here I'll just put a little plus sign. Now in here we want to say on click is equal to this, and we can have it in a nice callback function here, and we can just say set count. Now remember that I said this is the function, so we're gonna have to call it like that. And what we can do is in here is going to be the new value that we want to store. Okay, so in here I can just say we want to store count plus 1. Okay, so whatever the count currently is plus 1, and this will be the new state. Okay, so if I save that, and now I can press this button, you can see that the count's going up. So it's pretty cool. Let me just create another button to go ahead and turn the count down as well, so that we can see how this works once more. And in here I'll say on click, and we'll have a callback function in here, and then we'll just do set count, and we want to do the count -1 this time, of course, because this button is going to take us down. If I save that, and we can see I can take this down all the way back in the negative numbers now, and I can take it back up. So that's the very basics of useState. Now I have another example for you guys, so don't leave just yet. This is very unrealistic. Usually you won't be storing such a simple value in useState. You probably maybe storing an object that you want to send over in an API. You can do that if you want to. That's perfectly valid JavaScript. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to my index.js, and we're going to change this. I have my second example here, example 2. And if I save that, we should have another empty page, hopefully. Yeah, okay, that's good. So I have my other example here. So we're going to go over this again. First thing we need to do is import useState. So import useState from React. Okay. So what I want to do here is, we're going to create basically a form, and this is going to be a controlled form. So in case you don't know what a controlled form is, it's basically the idea that in a regular form, the user types in what they want, and when they hit the submit button or they hit enter, that is when the information from the form is sent or can be seen by any of the code. right? Because you won't, you could access it, but it's all hacky, right? Now, controlled form is the idea that any time that the user presses something, it's not going to go straight to the input. The input will say, hey, I changed, right? Someone tried to change me, and it will go ahead and grab that information, or the new letter that the user tried to type into the input, and that will actually change the state. And the input value, like the text that's actually stored in the input, is only going to be read from the state. It's not just going to be, when someone types it in, it's not going to go straight into the input. It's going to go into the state, and then the component will re-render, and then the input will now be reading the new information from the state that it just got stored in. It's kind of weird. It might be a little bit weird to start off with, but it'll make more sense when we code it. So we're going to go ahead and show you how to store objects as well. There's going to be a whole form with a name, and email, and an age. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say const, and we're going to have, let's say, user state, and set user state as our function. And this is going to set equal to use state. Okay, now in here, I'm going to have an object, and in this object, we're going to have a username. Okay, username, and this is going to be set to Jack by default. And then we're going to have an email, and by default this is should be a string, sorry, jack@email.com. And then we can have an age, and this, I'm just going to set this to, I don't know, 32, random. Okay, so now that we've got this set up, what we can do is we can start referencing this in some HTML. So I'm going to create just 3 p tags, and we're going to have in here. So now that we've got an object, it's user state dot username, right? And I'm just going to copy and paste this down a bunch of times and change this. So username dot email and username dot age. Now if I save this, we should see the email popping up here. So yep, all the information is here. That looks good. Okay, so now down here, I'm going to just separate this out with a HR tag. Like so, this is self-closing tag. I don't know what's going on here. Okay, save that, and we've got a nice little separator here. Now down here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an input that we can bind to the state.username. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say input, alright, we're going to have type equals text, and we're gonna have, let's say, placeholder equals name, or username. Actually no, just keep it a name. And we want to have, I'll just close this for now so I can create a new line here. Okay, now in here, remember, we want to read the value from the input, or sorry, the value of the input from this username. Okay, because when we're trying to type into the input, it's not gonna change. It's gonna send the information up here. The component re-renders, so this gets re-rendered, and then it will read the new value from the state, right? So the value is actually always going to be equal to user state dot username. Okay. Now how we're going to be able to change this input, because let me just save this quickly and you'll be able to see. Let me give this the class name of input real quick, because I have a little bit of CSS running in the background to make this run a bit smoother. Class name, did I spell that right? Class name equals input. Hello, CSS, where are you? Oh, sorry, I didn't import it. Let me quickly import that CSS file. Styles.css. Grab that real quick. There we go. Okay, that looks better. So now you can see, if I try typing in, you can hear me typing. It's not doing anything, right? Because the value is always set to this this state up here. Now, how we can change that is we can say on change. So whenever I try and change it, oh sorry, this should be equal to. This should have some curly braces here. We're gonna have a. I want to have sort of like a function that will basically set the new state, right? Now, what I'm going to do here, because we're going to have more than one input, right? We're going to have an input for the name, we're going to have an input for the email, and then the age. I don't want to have to write out 3 functions. Okay, that's, dry. Don't repeat yourself. You have to not repeat yourself when you're coding. Otherwise, if you're repeating yourself too much, you should understand that there's probably a better way to do it, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here and say const handle change. So this is going to be to handle the change of the inputs. And this is going to take an E. Now, we'll get to that in a minute in case you haven't dealt with React forms before. But we'll handle that in a minute, okay? So basically, what we need to do is we want to get this set user state function, okay? So I want to say set user state, okay? Now, in here, we're going to have an object, okay? Because obviously, what we're storing an object, so we need to have an object in here as well, okay? So what we want to do is we want to grab all the information that is currently being stored in the state, okay? So we want to grab all of the other information. So if we're editing the name, we don't want to affect the email or the age. So that can just stay as it is. So we can just fetch that information straight from user state. The only thing we need to change is the username. That's the only thing we need to change, okay? So I'll show you how to do that. It's not too bad. So what we can say is set user state, and we can do ... spread operator user state. That's going to grab this object and basically take out each element individually. So it will basically take out the username, store it in the object, take out the email and store it in this new object, take out the age and store it in this new object, right? So now this is really good because what this allows us to do, all right, and this is where it gets a little bit complicated, can use some more destructuring here, and I'm going to get e.target.name. Okay, now we haven't created this yet, all right, but this is going to be set equal to e.target.value. Okay, so what we're doing here, all right, and let me show you how this works, because this was really confusing for me when I first figured this out. Okay, so e.target is just going to respond to the input that just got changed, right? Now the name, if I come down here, and I'll actually set this for you so you can see it a little bit easier. So I'm going to set this to username, all right? And you have to make sure that this name here is the same as the value that's, or the name that you called the username up here, the exact same thing. And this is basically going to grab it. So if we have an input and we set this value of name to email, the only thing that will be changed with the value of the input will be the email, right? So let me just show you. Let me just go ahead and save this. Actually, wait, hold on. Down here in on change, we need to go ahead and say handle change. Make sure you don't put any parentheses, because that will just straight up call the function and send you in an infinite loop, which you don't want. So go ahead and make sure that there's no parentheses there. And if we type in here, we can see it's working, right? So let's set that back to Jack so you can see this. Now I'm just going to copy and paste this. Okay, and I'm going to change the placeholder to email, and I'm also going to change the name to email, and I'm going to change the value to email. Okay, and if I save that, you can see it's working splendid as well. All right, so I hope you understand what's going on. So we have the email here in the name attribute. We're just accessing that through e.target, and we're setting that equal to the value. Okay. So we can go ahead and paste in one more time, and we'll go ahead and set this equal to age. Name is age, and age here as well. Save that, and we can now change the age. Now you can see that whenever I'm typing down here, it's also affected up here. That's because these two sources of text are referencing the same state. Okay. Now the last thing I want to close off on is if you don't want to do this, and this is a little bit confusing to you, that's fine. It is really confusing at first. You can have more than one use state in a component, okay? So I'm going to show you how to do this. So what you want to do is we'll just change this to, we'll say const, and we'll do this again. So name and set name is equal to use state. All right, and by default, I'll set this to Jack. And in the input, we can just say, or sorry, not in the input just yet. In the user state dot username, we'll change this to just name. Okay. And then in the input here, we'll go ahead and just whatchamacallit, name. In fact, we need to get rid of the handle change, sorry. And then in the user input, we don't even need the name anymore, to be honest. I'm not going to be using that anymore. We want to just have the value be equal to name. And then in here, I'll have a callback function with E in there. And we'll have set name. And it'll be e.target.value. Now, this might be a little bit easier if the last method was confusing. Sorry. These other components are reading from that still. And also these two things. I'll just have this one thing here just for now. User state is not defined. Where am I referencing that? It's not being referenced. What are you talking about? Hello? What's going on here? All right, we'll just convert everything. I don't know. I've commented it out, but it doesn't like it still. Okay, that's fine. So I'll just go ahead and show you how this works first. So const, and we'll have email and set email. This will be to usestate, and we'll just have jack@email.com. Okay, and then we will have another one for the age. So age and set age is equal to usestate. And this will be set to 34 at the start. Okay, so we can go ahead and get rid of this. Whoops. In fact, I'll just show you a little bit of VS Code magic. Control D, Control D, Control D, and then we can go ahead and just get rid of that. Okay, so get rid of handle change as well. I'll basically copy and paste this for pretty much everything. We'll just have to change a little bit of it. Like so. This instead of set name will be set age, and this instead of set name will be set email. And if I save this, I think that should work. User state is not defined. Where is this? Oh, sorry, but that's not there anymore. Hello? What's going on here? Okay, I think it fixed itself. Okay, cool. So now you can see we've achieved the same effect, but it might be a little bit easier to understand. And we've basically done the same thing. Instead of having a whole object, we've just got 3 separate use states, which, to be honest, is a lot easier to understand than the first example. But hey, each to their own, right? I just thought the first one was a little bit cooler in the way that it accomplished things. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. That's pretty much all I have for you today. Please like, comment, subscribe. I really appreciate it. Every time a new person likes the video and subscribes, you have no clue how much that means to me. And I really appreciate you for making it this far in the video. If you think I make good content, please share. Please tell other people about me. I'm really trying my best here. Anyway, thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you in a bit.